awesome instructor. So welcome, Rob and Brooke.
Ladies, I'm thrilled with the crowd today. Thank you so much for, as Burke said, taking these out of your day to be here. Can I have a show of hands? How many have been members of the auxiliary for 10 years or more? Okay, how about 5 years? How about Randy new? As you can see from what I laid out here, I mean, if I started this, we'd be here, 6 weeks from tomorrow, but we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to go through a chronology of information that the ABC instructors established back in September. We kind of had our summit of 10 instructors that do the work, and we decided that it didn't matter what kind of format it was. However, we wanted to make sure we got the information out there on very important topics. If I am repeating something that you've heard a zillion times, I apologize, but there always might be something new. And also, we have to keep up with the times. And if you are seasoned members, I ask you this. When you hear information, think about, can we do it bigger, better, quicker, more efficiently? That is what we need to do. We're in the 21st century, and we need to do things quickly. The average time frame of somebody's thought process is less than 2 seconds right now. And you can tell by what's on TV. You can't even read the screen because it's gone before you even get to the second line. So, keep in mind, think about it, put your thoughts down. If there's a better way to do something, let's think about doing it. We're always open to ideas, whether it's within your unit or the district or at department level. Was anyone here when I did a class a few years ago over at 137? I think a couple of you? Okay, then I can repeat this. Going along with doing things the same over and over again, it might be great, but improvements are always there somewhere. And I tell a story about the lady and her daughter who were in the kitchen, and mom's making a pot roast, and when she gets the pot roast out, she hacks off the end of it, puts it in the pot, and puts it in the oven. And the daughter says, "Mom, why are you doing that?" So she says, "I don't know, Grandma always did it that way." So she says, "Well, going over there this afternoon, let's see what Grandma says while she does this." So they go over to Grandma, and they ask her, "Grandma, why do you hack the end off the pot roast?" She says, "Does it make it taste better? Is it cooked quicker?" She said, "No, I never had a pot big enough." So, ask questions, please. Ask questions. Why do we do what we do? We want to make it fun. We want to make it streamlined. We all do this as volunteer work, and our time is extremely valuable. All of us sitting in this room and everybody in the organization, it is extremely valuable. Okay. Start with the basics here. We have a national organization, and it doesn't say ladies. And the reason it doesn't say ladies anymore is because we have men joining now. We have a different group of people, and I hope they are wonderful volunteers for all of you. I know some units do have some men who have signed up, some don't, but please make sure you include them because they're members just like everybody else. A year and a half ago was our 100th anniversary. That's a long time for an organization to be in place. In the state of Florida, we have almost 38,000 members, and we represent a huge group of support for our veterans. And also, we've got a little pull with Congress. We report to Congress, and the group across the nation is like 700,000 right now. We have a lot of clout, just like the Legion has a lot of clout in Washington. We answer to them, but we also feed them information. And frankly, our numbers from our reporting and everything else we do, it goes a long way to show Congress that we are saving them oodles of money by volunteering, by donating, and by being caregivers to many of our husbands, wives, grandparents, children. We are caregivers, And we do it because we want to do it. There's no compensation. If the VA had to pay for it, it'd be money going out the door. But we're doing it voluntarily. So they need to know that what we do is extremely valuable to the taxpayers. Okay, from the national organization to the department organization, we're in the Department of Florida. However, it's called department because there are some that aren't departments that belong, 52 of them. District of Columbia and also Puerto Rico, so we have 52 departments. That's why they call it department and not state of, but we probably all know it is state of. The district is not incorporated, so they answer to department. That's why when you're district president, you don't get a budget, you don't get to spend money other than those dues that you get. We just are more of a governing body, basically for training and for disseminating information that needs to be disseminated. The units are run by a constitution and bylaws. Everybody have their constitution and bylaws updated? Okay. Does your preamble say all wars, not great wars? Because if it still says great wars, please get a new one. I know they're not cheap, but get a new one because that's been about 3 years now that needs to be in place. Also, we changed the information about spouses. Any reference to she needs to be either they or the officer or the chairman, because we need to keep it generic and keep those pronouns out of there. Okay, also the big change was the eligibility. Just some information about that to be a member. It used to be there were gaps in the time frames where a man or woman was eligible as a veteran to join the auxiliary. Now it is from Pearl Harbor Day through the present. And I guess with what's going on in the world right now, we're not going to see an end to that happening anytime soon. But in any event, the units are independent. They are incorporated. As you know, you file documents every year, a 990 tax form, and we'll talk about that later on, but you act independently. You are in charge of your membership. It is so important, and kudos to everybody who is getting right up there towards 100%. We really appreciate your efforts in renewing and recruiting, and keep up the good work. The organizations actually follow suit as far as officers go, with presidents, vice presidents, and all the way down the line, and the committees. And I'm going to try to take this a little bit. You all went to a school of instruction, universal indicator for yes. In any event, the school of instruction is, just like we're having the ABC school, it's open to everybody. School of instruction is open to everybody, but it's when the district officers give the unit members the information about offices, and in particular the committees. And that is held after convention. If you want to be, if you're really intuitive and you want to go to the workshop is held in August after convention, and that is actually for the district chairman and officers to learn what they need to do for the year. However, it is open to everybody. So if you ever have an interest in a particular program or an office that you might want to take, workshop is a good place to go. If you want information about the committees, definitely go to your school of instruction, because that's where you're going to get the information. However, we have a whole plethora of information on the website. And anything you want to know about the auxiliary, it's there. And the Legion website is also helpful, and you do not need a number to get on there. You can ask questions, frequently asked questions, or put a question in. I had a question over the past week or so. We have a congressman coming in to speak to our unit. We're inviting other units in the Legion, and however, we were very specific with his office and said nothing political. We want to know what we can do for the veterans and for the programs that are currently being considered, bills in Congress, and we wanna know what's going on, but we wanna know how we can help. From there, if somebody else asks him a question, okay, that's fine, he is our sitting congressman, so it's not a, quote, political event. Well, there was a legionnaire who thought, well, you invite one, you gotta invite the other. Well, we're not even there yet, because there's candidates in our area that haven't even announced yet. So how can we have everybody there? We don't. But we planned, not that we had to, but we planned the person who I heard is running, for her to come at another date, so we, she can say whatever she'd like to do, but we are apolitical. And in this time, where we have a lot of differences of opinions on what's going on in our country, please, please, please understand that the Legion is apolitical. We're here for issues involving veterans. I'm sure everyone has heard testy conversation going on at the bar, and what's the old saying? In public, don't talk about religion or politics. It still goes. It still goes today. We don't want anybody to have animosity or feel uncomfortable in coming into a Legion post, especially a veteran. We're here for them. This is where they can come and have some solace and enjoy themselves. So please keep that in mind. But again, I got that information for what we needed to do for our unit off of the Legion website. It's very helpful. Okay. Just a little bit about our background. We're fortunate, we had the first president of the National Committee from West Palm Beach, Florida. So we were like right on the cusp of this, way, way back. So Florida has always been very active. I'll share a little secret with you. Any of those awards and reports that you send up to national, and they go to the southern area first, southern district, we like outshine everybody. So kudos to you. Okay, the preamble. Okay.
Don't eat them all.
Okay. Ladies, we are only different by a few words from what the Legion is. And I know sometimes you go into the meeting and you just start rattling it off, and you get down the end and say, wait a minute, this doesn't sound right. It's only a few words at the end, and it has to do with our allegiance to help the Legion, which theirs does not say that because they would be helping themselves. So it's the only difference. So keep that in mind, and I will tell you when I get to it where the verbiage is. Okay, important thing, back to the unit. Your government is your constitution and bylaws. That is what runs your unit. You have a constitution and a bylaws that basically is a sample on the website, and it follows what national and department does. Bless you. If you were to skim through it, I think you would say, yeah, this is exactly what we do as far as the organization of our unit. So, that spells out what our purpose is, what the officers do, how we run elections, whatever. It's all the same. However, when you get to your unit, and you're talking about the individual things about your unit, that is where you would address it in your standing rules. Your standing rules is really kind of like a living and breathing document. It consists of such things as, we meet on the first Monday of the month at 7 o'clock. During our meeting, you can't smoke. You can't bring in an alcoholic beverage. Those are the kind of things that are in your standing rules. Do you have any special committees? In our unit, we have what's called the Sunshine Fund. And National doesn't follow that, department doesn't, district doesn't have that. But it is for someone in our unit that might need some assistance. wanna send flowers, or whatever we might wanna do for someone who is ill or passed away or whatever, that's what we use the Sunshine Fund for. However, we established that, put it in our standing rules, because it has specific things that you can and cannot do. We're not gonna pay somebody's, past due debt, but if they need to get a plane ticket to go see a sick veteran or something like that, that is what that money is for. How we raise that money, it's kind of like our internal AEF fund. And how we raise that money is we do a little raffle at every meeting, and they get a raffle ticket, and you may win something. Bottle of wine, lottery tickets, you name it. But we have a craft items. Craft items are very good. So that's how we do it. But so it doesn't get out of hand, because there were people coming asking for a handout, not a handout, a handout. And we felt we had to limit what we were offering. But it certainly has helped numerous people in our unit, but that's why we did specific criteria and adopted it in our standing rules. Does anybody else have like a committee like that you might, something special you do?
We have what's called a silver drill.
Okay.
It's a donation when you come to the meeting.
Okay.
Donate $1.
Right.
And then the silver drill is exactly
Similar, okay.
what it is for emergency like that, or
Great.
help somebody out, Like,
Great.
it's like an AEF fund.
Yeah, very good.
So,
Let me just go, does anybody go on the website and look at, like there's a member survey there, and there's other information about being a member. Being a member is, Robin?
Yeah, they have a membership kit.
Yeah, in with that are some guidelines as far as what the expectations are of being a member. And, you can be what we call, down in the south part of the state, a jam. It's just a member. You sit at the bar, or you come to dinners, or, you come to the Veterans Day event, or whatever it is, and you donate, or whatever you wanna do. If that is your appetite for this organization, and you're paying your dues, that's quite wonderful. We're happy with that. But I think a lot of us know that for you to get the most out of this organization is doing what you're doing here today, and volunteering, and going to the VA hospital and making someone's day better than it was yesterday, and those types of things. Volunteering within your unit, in your post, and that is where you're going to get the most out of your membership. We also have a code of conduct that is also on the website. And that means, ladies, we're gonna go a long way to get along. We have to get along. We have obligations to meet for our veterans, for active duty troops, and working against each other just doesn't cut it. We've gotta be strong enough to take a deep breath and say, okay, I may not agree, but maybe it's not gonna go my way this time, but maybe next time it'll go my way. But the best thing we can do to combat those kind of situations is what you're doing right here, knowledge. The more you know, the more you can offer, the more you can be able to compromise, and you need to be able to talk to each other. If you can't talk to each other, if you can't go to somebody and say, hey Beth, you know what? You said something the other night, and I thought you were speaking about me, and it kind of upset me. And we talk about it, and you say, oh no, that's not what I meant at all. And I'm like, cool, okay, we're good. We're good. But if you can't go to somebody and say that, and you're out at the bar and you're telling your best friend, yeah, well, they dissed me or something like that, you're never gonna solve that problem. You're never gonna solve that problem. And I myself had to have people sit in front of me, because someone came to me and said, I didn't like this, and they did that. Okay, fine. Fine, we're gonna make this easy. Okay, you're gonna sit there and you're gonna sit there. Okay, ladies, what's the problem? She told me she doesn't like your perfume and it makes her sick. Is that a problem? Well, heck, she never said anything to me. I don't wear that perfume when I come. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. And I've had other situations where there was an issue and they both said, oh, no, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. breath, and be able to confront someone in a soft and assertive way so that we're not causing animosity among ourselves. That is like really, really important. Okay. Let's see. Everybody knows about the badges. Badges over here. And a blue badge designates a unit member or a unit officer. If you have white over blue, that's a district officer or a chairman. Same thing at the unit level, the blue could be a unit chairman. And then a white is department, and red is national. So if you're going into emblem sales to order pins, please make sure you get someone's position right. Because someone, I went to a unit and I thought, boy, there's a new member from, gee, she's here from National. She's got a red badge on. Got a wow, National. So I went over and I, introduced, I said, oh, well, you're from National? Oh, no, I'm a brand new member. They told me to go into the magazine and order a badge. And you know what? It's something that can be very comical. Believe me, the first time I wore a shirt and had a Legion emblem on it, I didn't know. I wasn't told as nicely as I might have put it to somebody. Just said, hey, you know your badge? Thank you, good for the promotion, but it's the wrong color. Whatever. But let's just educate from the ground up so people don't get embarrassed or whatever. How many issues have you had in a unit where someone came up when the meeting was open and someone broke colors and in the back of the room we're going like, of those of you who are new, would you assist me? Would you slide the flag up to the front of the table? We'll do a little demonstration there. Okay. The flag, our stars and stripes are always to the right of the speaker, and this, what we call our banner, is to the left. And good job, Mary. The Eagles are facing forward. Now, when the meeting is in session, you know what happens. Somebody comes up with the receipt to the treasurer and says, oh, gee, I need to get paid, here it is. And they go, like this. This right here, this plane right here, and forward, is what we call hallowed ground. This is representing those who have passed. It's a respect thing. Those soldiers and veterans who have passed, honoring them. So we do not pass when we're in an active meeting and come up to the dais. Now, and if you post colors before your meeting, that make sure they're where they need to be. But if they're going to be posted prior to the start of the meeting, then we're just going to move them back here, back where they were. And guess what? We're all in front of the flags, so we're not breaking colors. Everything is forward of the flags. It's only when the meeting is in session. And while we're at it, is anybody going to ask if we salute?
Do we salute?
No.
Great question.
Get over the heart.
Now, if you are a dual member, you were in service, and you're also an auxiliary member, you're a legionnaire and an auxiliary member, and you're introduced to come up, or if you're in the audience, and we say that we salute the flag, the auxiliary members do this, the Legion does this, the Sons do this if they have their hat on. If they're in their Hawaiian flower shirt with no hat, they do this, unless they are a dual member. wearing hats. In our meeting, I have seen ladies wearing their Legion hat. Now, I'm one that, when in Rome, you know, do as the Romans do. If you're in an auxiliary meeting, wear your auxiliary regalia. When you're in a Legion meeting, whatever you want to do that's up to them. Now, when we come up, or we're introduced, and we salute the flag, that salute is optional. You do not have to salute. However, that, I would say, requires a short conversation with your commander, because we do not want to do anything contrary to what has been policy at the post. If he says, and I'm gonna say, most will say, you know, we salute, and we really appreciate it, ladies, that you do the hand salute. Okay, fine, but you're not obligated. However, it is nice, again, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, for the Legion. Another thought just flew right out of my mind. Escorting. Shall we escort? Let's escort. You want to escort me?
Sure.
Okay.
We'll escort
We don't have to go too far. Okay, we're gonna come now. Okay. So I'm being escorted up. Perfect, because you know what?
My
We
question
sometimes,
was, is she a Legionnaire or not a Legionnaire?
we sometimes think that the sergeant at arms is the one who should be seen and not heard, but that's the parliamentarian. The sergeant at arms has work to do, and she can't do her job if she doesn't know who she's escorting up. So yes, the perfect question, Legionnaire or auxiliary? If I was a Legionnaire, I'd be coming over here, and I'm gonna drop my hand, and I'm gonna walk around the back of the flag to go to the podium, if I am a Legionnaire. If I am an auxiliary member, just start back here again, and we come up here, I'm going to do this, and we're gonna part ways, and I'm gonna go around the auxiliary flag. Okay?
And I stayed over here.
And you're gonna wait for me over there. Because there's probably not anybody else gonna be coming up until, blah, 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 okay, now I'm back. So, we're good. Anybody have any questions?
Don't you just go ahead, and not just the Legionnaire, but if you have a guest speaker, or if you have somebody come in, won't you ask them if they were a veteran to be escorted to the flag?
When I was sergeant at arms, if I didn't know their face and didn't know what their position was, I met them way at the back of the room, so I had a little bit of time and nobody was looking while I'm doing this.
Right.
And I would ask who they are and which side, now, here's where it comes in, where we have a dual member. If a lady comes up, it's her choice. Does she want to go on the Stars and Stripes side? Does she want to go on the banner side? That's her choice as well. So you have to, as a sergeant at arms, you have to know what's going on. Because the sergeant at arms is a very, very highly respected position in this organization. I can't live without my sergeant at arms who's in the back of the room, who, as again, we go on blah, 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 and she's going like this to me. And I'm like, okay, got it. Because she's watching what's going around, and it's important that she's aware of everything. And that's another reason why you have an assistant sergeant at arms. First of all, you always want to have somebody in waiting that you can train to take over the position, because you might have had it for umpteen years and you're ready to move on. No. But an assistant is, if they've shown interest, obviously they're looking to move into that position. They need to be trained, but also if they take an active part in the organization, where in the organization's meeting, where you may be in the back of the room, but she may be checking cards, standing by the sign-in table. If you have a guest out, she's telling them, please stay here once we open the meeting and we call you in, but please, stay in the canteen until we're ready for you. and you get the information. Okay, this is, you know, Congressman Smith, and, you may be asked to introduce them, because we do that in our unit. When they're calling up, Sergeant at Arms, would you please introduce our guest? So, the Sergeant at Arms needs to know stuff. They're just not a quiet person. Yes, ma'am.
Well, let's say we did have a congressman, but they're not military affiliated at all. Would we go to that side or this? Would
Well-
we go to the flag or would we go to the?
Well, here's the thing. They do take an oath for their office. I, out of respect, would take them over there.
Okay,
But they may say, you know, because if we're talking about it, they may say, I'm not a veteran, so let me go over here.
okay.
It's one of those things, but if they take an oath to the,
Well, what if you have local congressmen or a local name,
you know, my feeling is about the oath. It's about the oath and service to the county, the state, the
Okay,
federal
that's
government.
what I wanted to know.
Does anybody else have a different opinion on that? Because I think it's a sign of respect
Yeah.
that we show to that person,
Okay,
They walk around with the flags on there.
okay?
Their shirt.
I am going to, I don't think that's ever come up before, so let me jot a note down. Because I'm all about.
Ladies.
Yes.
Isn't it the same way, if you do escort a guest over as, in an auxiliary function, it's always the auxiliary sergeant at arms that does the escorting.
That's right.
And then if she does escort him around the flag, then she waits on this side to escort him back. to the
Absolutely,
seat.
yes. Let's say we had a podium here and you were doing installation, because this was, to me, the most confusing thing that when I first got involved with this.
You're right.
Somebody's calling to a sergeant at arms in the back to escort somebody up. Well, let's see, you got a rider sergeant at arms, you got a staff sergeant at arms, you got an auxiliary sergeant at arms, you got a legion sergeant at arms. Okay, who's doing this? Whoever this speaker is, if this is a legionnaire, the legion sergeant at arms comes up. If it's an auxiliary officer, the auxiliary officer comes up here. Same way, when you have a district event, it's the district sergeant at arms that is going to basically do all the action there. However, there are times when there's not enough people at a district meeting and the hosting unit and host will offer their sergeant at arms to do the work. Okay? On that same note, ladies, when you are doing your district meetings, please don't leave this table empty. The president is not here on her own. She has a whole staff. The staff should be there. I mean, you're part of it, if you're a district officer or chairman, you're part of these meetings as well. Now, I know we all have conflicts with time and jobs and whatever, but you've got, let's look at right here. We have 17 units. Can't one of the 17 chaplains help out that day if Carolyn wasn't able to do it? How about a secretary to take notes? If you're all, you know, if you're officers at the unit level, it's a no-brainer, you can do it at the district level to fill in. And at district, we need to show support for our officers. They basically have, you know, dedicated time just like the rest of us. However, if you need somebody as a district president, or you can't make a meeting and you need to do a report, get somebody in one of the units to give the report for you. These people will then be more comfortable at a district meeting. They may think, hey, this is cool, I wanna move up, I wanna do a position for district. We're never gonna get that unless we show that this is a homogeneous group together. We're doing the work and district is here to support us, but also feed us information about department and national. So please count on other people, use the resources in your units in order to fill those spots. Okay,
Excuse me,
yes,
I have a question about saluting.
sure.
As a riders member, our riders group is insisting everybody salute, and those of us that are not veterans, even as law enforcement, I didn't salute, that's just, was our department, didn't do it. They're
What's this?
insisting, yeah, they said knock that crap off, basically. And
well-
that which offended me, and I'm just like,
Well,
where are we
this,
at now?
for us who have not been in the service, is a respectful thing.
That's what I
So I
thought.
don't know what
Right.
the gripe is. Now,
Okay.
you obviously have to be a member of one of the other groups, the Legion, the Riders, or the Legion of Sons, or the Auxiliary, in order to be a rider.
Right.
And why they're not following, there's a person who has not been in the military who's doing this.
Yeah.
That's not correct. That is not
I'll
correct.
bring it up at the unit level. I just
Okay.
wanted to verify
Um,
here what the auxiliary policy was for a rider member who's only auxiliary and not a veteran.
I was a rider for 15 years and I never did this, never.
Yeah, and I'm not comfortable with it. doing it.
I'm uncomfortable because
Yeah.
I know one person who's gonna come up to me and say, knock that off because you're not a veteran, and that's gonna be my husband. Those were 4 tough years and I earned this. So, but, please, there's always questions, there's always difference of opinion, but we wanna work it out and we wanna make sure everybody's comfortable with it. But I understand the riders are a tight-knit group, we were too. And I know they want the unison and everything, but, unless you have served, there's not this, it's this.
I was just kind of offended on the whole level, not being a veteran, and then honestly, it was just this guy telling me what I'm gonna do or
Well,
not do.
if you're not forced to do this, why would you be forced to do this? That doesn't make any sense to me, but just saying.
We'll take care of it.
Okay, I'll ask two.
Question?
Yes?
Forgive me. When you, I wanna back step a minute, you said checking cards. What does that mean?
At the door at the start of your meeting, you should have a sergeant-at-arms or assistant sergeant-at-arms or another member, maybe the membership chair, at the door. And as the members file in, they should have their card, especially at this time of year because it's past, it's long past when they needed to review. Basically, if they didn't pay, by January 31st, they lost full benefits of being an auxiliary member. So unless they're signing right now that day and giving you a check, they really are in the meeting as a guest,
Okay, thank you.
okay? But, good way to meet people, good way to see who has what I call the gifts. What do people like to do? Maybe it's decorating, maybe it's sewing, maybe it's party planning, cooking, baking, whatever it is. And maybe even think about taking turns at the door. Maybe it's one of the vice presidents or the event chair. Oh, great place for an event chair. Oh, right coming in the door, you get all the new ones in. Hey, how are you? What do you like to do? We want you to bake next week. But seriously, and people feel so much more comfortable if they are met at the door. They feel like they belong. I'm gonna give you an example. I went to a unit, and people have weird reasons why they don't do things or why they do things. And girl was introduced as a new member, and she was sitting at my table. So after the meeting, I was like, well, what did you think of the meeting? And she said to me, I don't know if I'm coming back or not. And I was like, well, what's the problem? And she said, you folks were talking about finances, and I just joined this group. I don't think I have any business voting on your finances when I don't know a thing about them. Well, that came out of left field for me. I've never had, never had that comment given. So, ladies, you never know why people don't come to meetings. And basically what I did is I, hooked her up with the treasurer just to show her the report and give a little once over on where we're doing fundraisers, what are the things have a line item for that we do year to year in our budget. And, she was just so uncomfortable and nobody thought anything of it, and I just thought, well, she has every right to know. So we, they let her in on a big secret, I guess. In any event, anything else that you've maybe had a situation come up with membership that you'd like to discuss at this point in time, you wanna cover? Yes, ma'am?
Hello, I'm Catherine Burke, and I'm sort of new at membership.
Okay.
And I had an issue with a very lovely woman, and she felt that she shouldn't have to pay her past dues because of COVID, and she did not use the post. And I informed her that it was her choice, the post was open, and that you were more than welcome to come, and we do other things besides entertain at the post. So, and I put it in a letter form, and I sent her her bill, and she still has the option to pay her back dues, but she's not interested in doing that. So there's nothing more I can do, and I just, if somebody else is facing that situation, maybe there should be some guidelines how we handle this.
Well, I think you brought up a very interesting situation, and frankly, if we allowed that as an excuse, none of us would be sitting here right now, I don't think. Things happen. We have hurricanes. We live in Florida. Does that mean you don't pay your dues? No. Because you know what? Write a check, put it in the mailbox. Put it in your mailbox. This wasn't a hardship. This was not a hardship to pay your dues during the pandemic. Did you not use the post? Maybe not. A lot of them were closed, open, but that's what happened. They were dealing the best they could to service the members that are in your unit, that they can come and get a beer, or they can have a dinner on Friday night, or whatever. People were working really hard, and I think you did the right thing. Whenever you have a situation like that, in writing is your best policy. Get it out there, give them a time frame if you have an issue with someone with membership. Need your dues in 30 days or you'll be dropped off the roster, because department will drop her off the roster. After 3 years. Go ahead, 3 years.
3 years.
Yes.
But I have found out, if somebody really does not want to renew their dues, and you want to get them off your roster so your roster's not 40 pages long, tell that member to send you a one-line statement, please remove me from unit, whatever, roster, with their signature, and send it to Kitty. And Kitty will make sure that they're on the roster.
Yes.
Sorry, one more question is that I received from National, they did a mail out. So I received back that little square piece of paper, and on it was written, dead, meaning the member. Now, I don't have a date when that person passed, and I don't have a signature who can inform me of the information. How do I proceed with that? If the person has passed, do I call the home and talk to the husband?
And she was on your membership list, on your
Yes,
roster?
Yes, and I think it's a sensitive subject because they're getting mail from there about their spouse after she's passed away. But I don't have a signature to legally take this person off.
I think that's a situation where you have no choice but to call the family member.
Okay.
Yes, it's delicate. You might want to start off by just saying, just checking up on you because it's membership time, and obviously, we know your wife, spouse, whatever, is not going to renew, but, and then let them, you can kind of backdoor that and figure out, and he says, oh yeah, she passed away April 12th or whatever. Then at least you have something, and I would write his name down and say, confirmed by husband on such and such a date.
Okay.
And then I would get that back to the department so that her name goes into the next memorial service at convention. You all know we do a statewide memorial service after convention on Sunday before the installation of the department officers. And it is to recognize all members who have passed in that year prior.
Thank you.
It's a lovely ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
to piggyback off of that, without having to contact the family, every county has a obituary list.
You
It's
can
in,
find it on.
it's in the paper, you can find it online,
Yeah.
social media, and, you know, I hate to say social media, but let's face it, ladies, everybody lives on social media. You know, it is less invasive than contacting the family member, but I also like your idea too of reaching out to the family member, whether they're past, present, future, paid or unpaid. At one point, they were still a member.
Yes.
So, you know, I can personally speak for myself. I know my president and our chaplain probably got tired of writing condolence cards to me, but in a matter of 14 months, I lost 4 members.
Oh, wow.
And it was like East Coast, West Coast, so it meant a lot to get that, but it also means a lot to the family member to still reach out to them and just, hey, how you doing? But if not, you know, let's face it, we're in 2022, anything you wanna know about somebody, Google.
Here's an excuse, why, about calling the family member. Would you like us to drape the charter for your wife?
Yeah.
And invite them. Family members are invited. And also you can pay just their per capita. If you can't ascertain that they're not a member and you don't wanna drop them, pay the per capita for a year, which is just the money that goes to Department and National. It's not what you get for your unit. That's what we call per capita. And just till you can find out what the story is. Yes,
Since we're legal and we're a business.
yes.
My outlook is this: if I take somebody or do the work to get them off the roster, I have to have the name of the person who's responsible to take them off the roster, because it's gonna come back and say, who legally gave you that right to do it? So
Who
call
do
me
you
in,
think
make it
wrote
a notation.
the death on that little slip of paper? Somebody from department?
They sent out a mailing, and the person, their husband, or whoever that person was, there was no name, sent in her membership dues required and wrote across dead. And that is really, it's because probably they got
Yeah.
mail from a spouse that just passed.
Yeah.
But I want legal, I want somebody to,
For you to satisfy your requirements,
I
if you're
will.
gonna have that tough conversation with a relative, unfortunately.
that's okay, I'll
Yeah.
call.
Yeah. And again, delicate, but,
Kathy?
yeah.
Kathy, you do know there is a death form, a
Yes.
membership that you send to department.
Yes, but I have to have, if
But nobody
somebody
has
just
signed
in
that
the
form.
family, if somebody in the family that's not responsible, or somebody picked it up and just wrote across
It's not on that form,
yeah,
not on that form. I'll pull up the form and show you.
I've got it.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, family member doesn't have to sign that form, it's strictly the membership chairman and secretary, I believe, who
Okay.
signs that form.
Thank
But
you.
But finding the date, yes, I understand that.
Thank you.
A lot of good questions here. Mary?
No, I just want to make an announcement.
Oh, go ahead.
Ladies, when somebody else is speaking, try to keep your conversations really down low, because the sound does travel up, and there's been a lot of background conversations going on. Have
Thank you,
respect
I
for the
appreciate
person
that,
that's
because I'm
speaking.
competing with an air handler here. So, yes, if you could please, and as we say the polite way in our meetings, when, conversation breaks out, one meeting, ladies. So if you have a problem, instead of you going up to somebody and saying, knock it off, ladies, we're having one meeting. That means there's one speaker at a time.
I usually would just stand up and point,
Yeah,
so
Yeah.
that means whoever's talking, please. Thank you.
Okay, a little more just about, our structure. Offices in national are elected. Offices in department are elected. Offices in districts, other than the president, are appointed. At the unit level, offices are appointed, offices are elected, and chairmen are appointed. And any officers that, like for instance, you have a secretary, is your secretary elected or appointed?
Appointed.
Most everybody's appointed, anybody elect their secretary? Okay, I'm just gonna play devil's advocate for a minute. Okay, Mary's president and Susie, is running for secretary, and, they don't get along. So, what kind of year do you think that's gonna be?
Interesting.
Just saying. The president has to rely on the secretary for a lot of stuff. And in this day and age, that secretary may be the point of, generic emails that go out. They may be doing a lot more correspondence electronically than they ever did before. And these people have to get along. So I commend those of you who do appoint the secretary. It's up to the president, somebody she can get along with. If you're gonna have an animosity, it's gonna be a tough year. Just saying. Just saying. And that should be in your standing rules, whether you appoint the secretary or elect her. Because if you notice in the Constitution and bylaws where they describe the offices, it says elected or appointed, and everybody who says their Constitution and bylaws leaves that in there. It means pick one. Pick one, whichever one you do, just pick one and get rid of the other one.
Question.
Yes.
All right. If you have a change of presidents in your year, that president takes over, the secretary was appointed by the previous president, but is not doing the job she's supposed to. The new president then has the right to remove her and assign a new secretary, does she?
Okay, let's start at the top. If it's an officer who is not doing her job, or is not showing up at meetings, you may politely say to her, look, you've not been to X number of meetings, and it's becoming a deficit to the unit because the work that goes along with that office is not being done. Now, you can ask her, we appreciate it if you would consider stepping down, and that person may take that like, oh, I've been waiting for this, I don't wanna do this any longer, so they get it for me. Or they may say, it's not a heck no, that's a hell no, I'm not going anywhere. And if they say that, you really don't have any choice. However, hopefully they'll step up and start doing the job. However, this is also an indicator, if this person runs again, ladies, you really need to think about the quality of officers and chairmen that you're gonna have. Do you want this person, you wanna go through this again, where you're nagging her all the time to show up, and she's not doing her work, and she doesn't have a report, and this and that? Do you wanna go through that again? Because he or she just kind of proved to you that they're not interested in doing the job. Now, in our own unit, it was kind of a situation where we knew they weren't coming back. So what we did is, the president appointed an interim officer. And the E-board, the EC voted on it and recommended, and then it was ratified by the general membership. So we basically replaced her and we never heard from her again. So that was the way we did it. Now on a committee, they're appointed, they can be unappointed just as fast.
Well, that's what she was.
Yeah, that's what she was
We're
asking.
talking about, yes, we're talking about a committee.
No, secretary.
If we're talking about the appointed, but like, same thing with committee though. If they're appointed, you can unappoint them.
So a secretary, that's an appointed position.
I'm sorry, I went on to another subject.
That's okay. So the secretary, that's an appointed position, who's not doing what she needs to do, can be removed by
My
the
answer
current
there is yes.
president. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm thinking of a solution for this situation is that these positions that we have acquired and gone in with an open heart, we find that there's a tremendous amount of hours that we spend now. There is, if we can get people to do it like secretary, assistant secretary, membership, assistant membership. So if something happens to your membership, you have somebody automatically, because you're somebody that's got the knowledge to step in and help. Some of us are older, and unfortunately, our minds aren't what they used to be. I'm thinking about membership driving through red lights, so.
Yeah, I get you. I understand, and again, that's where the education comes into play. What we do at our unit, the night we vote, the president hands the gavel to the incoming president, and she takes over, as does her officers that were elected that night, and the chairman if she's already appointed. Now, yes. Your standing rules may say something else. It may say that your officers don't take office until after installation or after convention each year or whatever. You have to go by your standing rules. But ours says accordingly that that's what we do. On that same night, everything from the Americanism chairman passes to the new Americanism chairman. And within a few days, the expectation is that they're sitting down face to face, and this lady who's the outgoing chair is giving all her knowledge, all her paperwork, everything, to the incoming. If you don't like it that somebody's taken over your position, can't help it. It's done by, if it's an office, it's done by a vote. If your unit votes, they vote. But, especially with the chairmanship, we ought to be all together on this, in particular, that we can pass on information and make that person as good as they can be. A lot of times, when you see a chairman who is floundering, my comment is, where's the last chairman? Why didn't she spend at least a couple of minutes with this person? And actually, if you're considering a position, go to that and say, hey, you know what, I need to know about it. Besides going online and getting all the information you can that's written, there's obviously nuances like, oh, you know, when I took over, I didn't realize that I needed to go XYZ here 4 or 5 times, you know. They may not know what the obligation is, and the only fair thing is to share with them what the obligations are. The stuff that's unwritten, that we don't tell them, you know, how to do a report. We don't tell them anything. So we really need to make sure that we have that connection with whether it's an office or whether it's a chairmanship. And I highly recommend somebody shadowing you, whatever your position is. If you find somebody who's interested in what you're doing, they need to be your right hand. If you can't make a commitment, a chaplain going to a funeral or something, here you go. Here's your stand-in right here. And if she goes to events with you and she sees how you perform a chaplain service, she can do it. And she needs to know how to do it, because when she goes into that job, when Carolyn's no longer interested, she needs to be confident in what she does, and she needs to know the information to do the job. And we train and train and train. We do as much as we can from a district and department level. However, it's this that gets it. This is where there's going to be a committee person that gets it and is excited about doing her job. Yes.
I agree with you 100%, because, and that has always been a fallacy with everybody on that. But just to answer Katie's question on that, what she was saying, an assistant membership chairman, to me that would be very confusing, because the membership chairman, now all of a sudden she's doing her work, and now all of a sudden, but she didn't get the envelope out, or the paperwork's laying on the desk. Now the assistant comes and says, oh my God, this has to be done. And I think it should be the one who really should work with the membership chairman is the president of the unit.
And
That's
my feeling though about someone shadowing you is we have no accommodation for calling any assistant an assistant.
Right.
However, on committees, you're expected to have committee people, committee persons. So there it's kind of like free reign. You can have 3 shadows behind you. On the other side, being an officer, it's not out of the realm of having someone shadow you though, so that they know what they need to do. And if you need to ask them to step in, other than, you know, our rank, if the president's not there, then the vice president's gonna run the meeting, if she's not the second, et cetera, down the line. So keep in mind that it's all a learning experience for people, and especially if the people are energetic. Just the shadow thing, they don't have to say a word, but if you need them to step in and read a report for you or something, they're there for you. And you keep the, you know, it's, what's the right word though? It's consistent. There's always a membership chair there. There's information coming from the chair. And she's not here this week, so Beth is gonna give a report or read the report. It just kind of makes sense. It's not, it can't be an official assistant, but it can be a committee member or someone who is shadowing, just so that they know. Yes, I have a hand up, yes.
Michael Ann, 283 historian. What are the positions that a unit must have in order to keep their charter? And what happens if a unit doesn't have all those positions filled?
You need a president and you need a secretary.
That's it?
That's it.
Cool beans.
However, I highly recommend that you do not have the president be your treasurer. That happens a lot, and I understand when you're president and you keep hearing, no, I can't do this, no, I can't do this, all of a sudden it all feels right here in your lap. Avoid that like the plague, because, obviously, there's no dual control. She's controlling not only, she's not only running the meeting, but now she's running the checkbook too, and not a good idea, not a good idea. Let me also mention, in department, they say the minimum you can have is 10 members to hold your charter. However, I just want to mention that there have been units with 100 members that got shut down in their charter taking. Because it's not only the bodies in the room, it's the paperwork, it's the 990, it's the agricultural permit, it's your corporation documents, it's results of an audit. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that can knock you out of the box. So, a lot of people hang on to, do we have the right officers? Well, you need those too. And let me explain in that position, and you need the 10 members. But 10 members is not necessarily gonna keep you working and operating, because you got the other stuff to do along with it. Here's the situation where the secretary comes in. Let's say the president doesn't show up for the meeting tonight, and the vices aren't there either, the elected vices, first, second, third, nobody's around. That secretary opens the meeting, and she goes around the table, and she asks for a volunteer to run the meeting. Someone's gonna step up and run that meeting. Are they going to be permanent? Nope. However, you can only have one election. So hopefully those 3 presidents, vice president, well, the president and maybe 1, 2, or 3 vice presidents, hopefully one of them will show up at the next meeting. If you have that situation where, you know, it comes a month or 2 where the secretary's basically having to set this up, it's time to talk to your district president, first of all, and see what can be done. Perhaps there can be contact of a prior president, perhaps a district officer or president in the area would be willing to take on that position. However, that's the importance of the secretary, and that's why you need those 2. I've heard people say, no, you need a treasurer. Well, sure you need a treasurer, but it's the secretary that's gonna help you out when you're in the real jam, if you can't get any of the presidents to come. Okay,
Break?
you want a break? You want a bathroom break? Yeah, go ahead. We'll do one last question.
Can I ask you something about the treasurer?
Hold on, ladies. Hold on just a second. Go
I'm
ahead.
relatively new, so
That's okay.
But I'm always shocked, this is excluding our treasurer, she's outstanding. But I'm always wondering about the treasurers that are in office or that are functioning. Is there no bond, or how do you protect the unit from that vital position? And how do you screen the importance of the treasurer?
We need to do vetting on all of our officers, and even the chairman. Vetting, asking them the tough questions, like in the situation where you're considering someone for a treasurer. Do you have any background in accounting? Yeah. Okay, if I were to look in the public records of Duval County, am I gonna see the name there? With a case of fraud or dishonesty? Well, you might, okay. That's all I need to know. That's all I need to know. You have a right to vet. Were you at another unit? Oh yeah, I was treasurer down the street. Okay, you don't mind if we call them, because we are gonna call them. And if you do vet your members for membership, and you do go, like transfers in particular, and you call the past unit, I just want to give you an example of what may happen. Oh, Susie, oh, she was great. Oh, she was the best thing. You are so lucky to have her. And she hangs up the phone and says, we dodged a bullet. We're getting rid of Susie. Don't think that people, just because you're in the same organization, are honest as the day is long with you. If they want to get rid of somebody, they're going to get rid of somebody, and they're going to get it to you. So you don't want to take on any more problems than you need to. But it's the same thing with the officers. You need to vet them. You need to ask the tough questions. All right, ladies, I'll let you go.
There's two bathrooms, one on this side and the one over on that side. We both go in. Get in the bathroom.
Constitution and bylaws, they're only going to change when national or department changes. However, if for some reason you do, you need to read them at a meeting, and then you need to read them at the next meeting and vote. Now, if in fact you have a unanimous vote, you only have to do it once. You don't have to do it 2 meetings in a row. The standing rules can be approved by 2/3 vote of your unit. But when you send it in for approval, you need to send it with the Constitution and bylaws, the whole thing. And it is signed on the back, it's signed by the president and the chairman of C&B, and then you're gonna leave a spot for the department president, or the department chair. Or if you don't have a C&B chair, it could be the secretary or another officer. Okay, yes?
Now, our Constitution and bylaws, they do not have to be signed by department, is that correct?
They have to be signed by department, yes.
I was told that they didn't have to be, because we sent ours in, our amended ones, and I was waiting for them to come back.
And was that very recently?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, and then I was told that, they don't have to be signed off by department.
But you made a change to C&B, or you made a change to standing rules?
Both, because of course we incorporated what came back, from, nationals in regards to the Zoom meetings and all of that.
Okay, I think you're gonna find that things that came out of national have to be voted on by the entire general membership at convention. So they're really not in our standing rules yet, because we are a year behind what national has done just because of the way the conventions fall. So I would just hold that thought, and I think all will be clarified. But I think what they're gonna do is they're gonna tell you that going ahead now, it's only 10 years on the Constitution and bylaws, because they don't expect, that's from the national organization and department, and they're trying to alleviate a lot of paperwork for them. So now the responsibility is falling back on the unit.
Right.
That's a good thing and it's a bad thing. If you want oversight, certainly you can go to the department chair and ask, or your unit, I'm C&B for our unit.
Right.
For the district. And I get a lot of calls, and, I just look up what they're asking me, and I send them where to find it, and, give them an answer. But there are things that we have to vote on.
No, I'm not saying about
But
that, I'm just saying
It's
the
an
signature.
It's kinda like an automatic, because National already said this is what you're gonna do.
Right, but I'm just saying as far as sending it to department, and waiting for them to sign it and send it back to you, they said
Okay.
they're not doing
Then
that.
what I would do, did you just get it back from them?
No, I'm still waiting for them, because what we did is we sent our original up to them where our committee, our constitutional bylaw committee, they signed it, we sent it up to department, and we were waiting for department to send it back, well, they usually sign off on it. And we were waiting, and we were told, no, they don't sign it anymore, per se.
Okay, the chairman for the CMB for department is in my district,
Kathy.
and, Kathy, and you're very.
Yeah, that's who I
good friends.
spoke with,
So let me get her take on that.
yeah.
But I know there's a lot of things that were suggested and voted on at national that are gonna come up at our convention, and basically it's a ratification of what national is telling us we need to do. So I think that's going to happen. At convention, yes,
I do have, a question on, not, but that's, like she said, I gathered that too, because I had that conversation with Patty. The thing is, on your standing rules, like, they're saying you can change your standing rules with the majority votes at a meeting. But don't you have to give every member a copy of the old standing rules, and then on the new standing rules, what the suggestions are, so they know what we're talking about, instead of just going into your meeting saying, well, we're changing the standing rules.
Well-
Everybody's going, hey, well, let them.
well, I think the whole idea of a vote from the general membership is because they have been informed on what the changes are. I would not recommend just saying, hey, we got some housekeeping things, so, let us, amend for housekeeping reasons. No, you need to explain all the changes. And what I do is, when I do a constitution bylaws, I have what is being changed, and it's highlighted. And under it is what the new change is in red. And then underneath it, I have a topic, and it says rationale. Two lines, 3 lines, why we're asking you to vote on what we're doing. We give if we're changing it, yes, we have copies. The secretary would send out the marked up version first with our minutes, because that's how we distribute minutes. It goes out in an email, so everybody reads it before the meeting. So when it comes down to it, we just say, everybody read? Yes, everybody read, okay. Any amendments? No. Filed as read. Yes, Robin?
Okay, I'm confused back to the voting on the Constitution and bylaws.
Yes.
If I understood you correctly, Constitution and bylaws are read twice and voted on, but if it's unanimous, then you only have to read them once.
Constitution and bylaws, you need to read, yes, that needs to be read twice, because there you're going for, a change to a document that all of us subscribe to, and you're making a change just for your unit.
Okay, and standing rules is a 2/3 vote at the meeting that they are read.
Correct, because that's what we'll say, let's call that local business.
Okay, and
It's
then,
local, and it's germane just to your unit.
okay, are they then effective immediately upon that vote from the unit?
Yes, because you voted on it, and
Okay.
it's, what do you wanna call it? It's business of the day. It's the way you operate your unit. So, I mean, unless you say, we're gonna, hang the flag upside down or something, but they're not gonna go along with it, because that obviously, if we dug deep enough with the national, membership manual, the operations manual, I can bet you dollars to donuts that it's in there, that's the way you're gonna have to do something. So if you go changing something that is accepted by department and by national, that's where you're gonna have the problem, and that's where they can say, you can't do this.
Right.
Yes,
Sorry, I may have missed this because I'm a big girl and there was food involved. If we voted and approved with no changes, the Constitution and bylaws. We sent it in about a month ago. Should we have that back yet, or are they holding off on that?
Okay, you had no changes to your C and B?
No changes.
Did you
The
send it?
amendments,
Did you?
Oh.
the required amendments.
The required amendments, we voted on,
Okay.
all approved.
Yeah, that needs to go. And if you made any changes to standing rules, that would need to go. And how long?
We sent it in about a month ago.
I'll call Kathy and find out what her time frame is right now.
And then I do have a second part of, well, not a second part, a second question. If things may come up at nationals, will we need to vote again on a new constitution and bylaws after nationals?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Would you give her a single? Thank you. Thank you.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Yes.
We did constitution, bylaws, everything last year, standing rules, and we included the Zoom meetings and elections in our standing rules. So am I to understand that that's going, department is gonna vote on that into the bylaws come convention, to have that as, the Zoom and the elections?
No, because that should have gone into your standing rules.
Right, it is now, so, I mean,
So if you make that change and you voted on it and accepted it, and you sent just a courtesy copy of your constitutional bylaws along with the changes from your standing rules,
Right,
you should be getting that back signed.
oh no, we're all done, we did
Okay.
that last year.
Okay.
So, are we gonna have to redo the bylaws to add the Zoom meetings, or are we okay with our standing rules?
When did you put the Zoom meetings in?
Last year during, because of the whole.
Okay, but you already had that approved.
It's already, it's on the side of the.
If you already have it approved, then there's nothing that you have to do, because national and department were advocating that you make some kind of accommodation for an e-meeting of some sort. So, that is one of the things, if you haven't renewed your constitution bylaws recently, in particular your standing rules, you need to think about how do we meet in an emergency? Do we do a Zoom meeting? Do we just do it by email? How are you gonna do it? You don't have to spell out, like, we're gonna do it at, 8:01 in the morning on the third Monday or something. You don't have to do that, but just say what the process is going to be. Also, there's people who don't have computers. I think at your meetings, you really do need to have a buddy, if you don't have a computer, so that buddy can feed you the information that's coming down from your unit or your district or your department. Because whether we like it or not, we're in an electronic age right now. That's something that should be addressed, because as I said, they advocated that we do that. The other thing is definitely, if you haven't changed the eligibility and started from World War I to the end of it, eligibility, not many of those people left, but then there's a gap, but then it starts again from a Harbor Day, 1941, and it goes forward to today and on until we have no activity going on, military activity going on in various parts of the world on terror. Because that's why we're still open right now. We keep that open because we are in a war on terror. It have been since 9/11. So, and even a little bit before that too. But, just keep in mind that those, elements of your, constitution need to be changed and updated. There is a sample under the C&D program on the state website. Everybody familiar with ALAFL.org? ALAFA.org. ALAFA.org. You got it, okay. All the programs are there, upcoming events are there, that's our department website. Very, very helpful. Get to know people, their pictures are there. So anyway, don't hesitate to go there. Matter of fact, coming up, your reporting, your blank forms for reports are there. Okay, has everybody selected their nominating committee? between February and March, need to have a nominating committee in place. What is their job? Their job is to find people who will take positions and eventually chairmanships, but see who is willing to run for office. The word comes out again about vetting. If you're sitting at the bar and you've had, 4 or 5 drinks and you're talking to the lady next to you going like, you make a great secretary. I don't think you're gonna have like a great year. Because when that woman, the next morning goes, what did I do? I said I was an officer, OMG. You can't, it's a bad place to be looking for people to do important jobs for this organization. Now, when I say vet, you go up to somebody and you wanna ask them what their history is with the American Legion, what they like to do, would they be interested in a position, and if it's one of those touchy ones like treasurer or president, and you have to dig a little deeper, and they say, I'm not telling you that, okay, thanks. I know there's a privacy issue, but we also have issues where we need to protect our organization and its funding and everything else that goes along with being a member. So, nominating committee is 3 appointed by the president, unless your standing rules say differently, but that's the way ours are. And we start kind of early, we start the first of the year, because we want those 3 people to go out, and we want to be talking to those people to see who's willing to run, who's willing to do a job, learn a new job. That's what the job is of those 3 people. You've got to be a salesperson a little bit. But you need to look for good people. And if you honestly have someone in office and you don't think that they're good, and you've got an alternative, and the person is really energetic and is going to do, and you think is going to do a good job, when you write up your slate to present to the general membership in the March or April meeting, whenever you do it, and that other person's name's not on there, but she's been an officer for 20 years, but as Mary said, she's not doing her job, it's time to get somebody else in that position. But you need to support people. You need to support officers, whether they've been there for years or they've been in, it's the first position they've had with the auxiliary. We need to be supportive with training with them and making sure they feel part of the government of your unit. Yes. Okay, go ahead. Why don't you go ahead?
All right. Ladies, on the Constitution and bylaws, it has changed. You do not have to send your revised Constitution and bylaws and standing rules to the department chairman. You change the rules and you put notes on them to the department. You send you send your revised Constitution, bylaws, and standing rule with original signatures to the Department of Florida, and you will not give them back. They'll keep them, they'll file them, and that's it. But it is recommended that if you do change them, as you know, your bylaws, you can't really change much, you can just add some verbiage to it. But your Constitution and bylaws are basically done by the Legion and also by, we are dictated to how to word all of that. But your standing rules is housekeeping. So you can change some verbiage in your bylaws, but that's it. You should send it to Kathy McMullen. She is the Constitution and bylaws chairman for the department, for her to review it. So she'll go through them and let you know whether that's good to send in or what you should correct. Because if the department or national finds stuff in there which you are not compliant with the department and national, they kick it right back and you're not in compliance. My recommendation is Bobby B. Robbins, send it to Kathy McMullen, telling her what has been changed. She'll look them over, she'll send them back to you, and then you'll have the mailing, no email. It has to have original signatures on there. She will not approve them, but she'll let you know what's wrong with them. And that's what I just found out. Thank you.
Okay, so you start coming down the pipe, so, thank you for that explanation. Appreciate it. Okay, I've not heard that yet, so, okay. All right, very good. Your nominating committee is going to present a slate at the meeting before you have the elections, and hopefully it's got a person on each of the elected positions. And I think at this point, we should talk a little bit about what happens with some of the things in an election. Just because the nominating committee comes up with a slate, that does not mean there can't be another candidate for that office. However, when they call for nominations at the floor, which is usually the April and the May meeting, and Susie nominates Diane for treasurer. She can run from the floor. She's nominated from a unit member who's already on the floor, and that person then becomes part of the ballot. However, they're a write-in at that point, so their name would be written in. Just like when we do district. If in fact you are endorsing someone for president of the district, that endorsement has to come from the unit that they are in now. They may have been president somewhere else, but it is recommended that a president not get an endorsement, presidential candidate, not get an endorsement unless they've been a unit president for at least 6 months at that unit who is going to give them the endorsement. An endorsement does not have to be unanimous. It can just be an endorsement. But what's happening is the unit is basically telling the district that we have a candidate that we totally trust. We think that she's got the knowledge, she's got the wherewithal, she's got the public speaking experience, she is a good business person, whatever you feel makes a good district president candidate. That is why you're giving them an endorsement. So you don't give an endorsement to everybody. And you have every right to ask the person that wants to be endorsed some background. What have you done? You know, what's your history? How deep is your history with the auxiliary? That kind of thing.
Could not be done at a district meeting, at DCC?
As far as from the floor?
I mean, asking that candidate how, you know, it's DCC, the candidate's there, you know, that's been endorsed by a unit, and say there's another one that was endorsed from the floor. At the DCC, can the General Assembly ask them, you know, what their qualifications are for that?
I'm an open book, and I would welcome any question that came up from the floor if I was a candidate for an office. And I just think that's fair. Why would you elect somebody if there was a question that was very important to you, whether you would vote for this person or not?
Because they're the only one running.
Yeah, well, that happens too, yeah.
Yeah.
But I would ask away. But again, the endorsement needs to be from the unit that that person is a member of who wants to be endorsed. She needs to be a member of that unit, yes,
So, for instance, in our DCC, we have an endorsement.
yes.
Okay, now if there is, I have to ask, after her endorsement is read,
Yeah.
are there any other nominations?
Yes.
We do that twice.
Yes,
So now, all of a sudden, the other unit member, or whoever, president stands up and they say, we are endorsing Vicki Gordon Hack for district president for 2022, 2023. So now, can I go as the district president and ask both the candidates? And I have to ask if she accepts the nomination.
that's correct.
So now, can I ask both of them, give us like a 2-minute synopsis of what they have done?
Your
in the
history, yes.
district?
Resume, sure.
And both of them,
Yep.
even the one that came off the floor.
Yes.
Because at one time, I was told I could not do that, but I was told again from somebody else, as the fucking president, yes, you can, because the members that are voting need to hear what they have done.
Once you're at the district meeting and someone is nominated off the floor, it's kind of like they're now a candidate.
Right.
They're now a candidate. So if you ask one a question, yes, you're gonna ask the other one the question. And as I said, they should be willing to speak at the meeting. conference. Now, I was speaking of unit, but it'll go a lot quicker if I just finish this up. Your ballot, whenever you vote, is a paper ballot. If there is only one person running for an office after the call for any other nominations from the floor, if there are none, after those 2 meetings before you vote, then at the election, the secretary can declare with only one candidate running for the office of XYZ, we declare her the incoming president, whatever, secretary or whatever it is, for the unit. You do not have to vote if it's an automatic like that, like nobody else is running. All right. Now, if there is opposition, the first comment is, please do not vote for president and count the votes, and then vote for first vice and count the votes, and then vote for second vice and count the votes. Because if someone didn't make it to president, and somebody, and you allow nominations in between there, you're gonna have this person just running the slate until they find an office where they get elected to. And I don't think you want that, but just saying. So what happens is, you need to do the whole slate. All of the candidates are entitled to a monitor, and all they do is sit next to the teller who's counting the votes, and they can watch, and they count it twice, make sure they're good, and then it's announced. But these monitors, you can have one monitor for each person who's running for an office. And they just oversee, and the teller is right here counting the votes, so they can look, okay, 20 votes for Susan, 20 votes for Donna, or whoever it is. They will see what the vote count is, so it's straight away. Now, the ballot is by majority, which means who got the most votes. If there's more than 2 people running, it is plurality, which means I'm throwing a blank. Depending again on what your C and D said, or your standing rules say, if you need a runoff because nobody's made 50%, then the top 2 run off. But the plurality is one more than 50%. So that's why you may, if you have 3 candidates running, you may end up with the top 2 running with another paper ballot. I would put the names on the ballot for each of the offices in alphabetical order. But the endorsed candidate goes first. Because they have already been vetted and their unit is supporting them, and they're gonna be the first one on the ballot, and then you can put on the other people who might be running for that same office. And put them in alphabetical order. Okay, so you're gonna have a second ballot if the person doesn't get 50%. If there's only one running, I said what we said, it can actually be the president or the secretary who can say, with only one candidate running, we declare this person a winner. That could be either the president or the secretary who will do that. It may fall to the parliamentarian if in fact those elections happen to be one of those people, because they're not gonna announce themselves. Yes, ma'am.
So now, even though you have a election committee, they don't announce that? The secretary would announce that? Is that what you're saying?
Normally what happens is, and again, whatever it says in your standing rules, but once the nominating committee gives their slate of officers, they're retired. The president will say, the election or nominating committee is now suspended because they've done their job and it's over with.
So, and that happens when?
That happens after they give their slate of officers that they've recommended of the people they've spoken to who have said, yes, I would like to run.
So who actually, the day of election, go and, you know, hand out the ballot?
Normally, if you're having an election committee, the president would appoint people that day and say, okay, we need you to pass out the ballots, we need you to collect the ballots, you're gonna be the teller, and here's the people who have been elected by their candidate to be, a monitor. That would all be done that day, it's right before you're going to hand out the ballots.
Okay.
Now, when the ballots are handed out, nobody leaves the room, it's just like at Barbie Convention. Nobody leaves the room. When the votes are collected and they go wherever, whatever secret room they go in to count the votes, then things lighten up a little bit because you're waiting for the vote. But otherwise, no leaving the meeting room.
And no yellow line paper.
Yes, it is a wonderful idea if you are on the election committee and you create the ballots, that you have an identifying piece of paper, like it has the auxiliary seal on it up in the corner, or it has somebody's name, like you created by election committee on the bottom, or it's neon colored, or whatever it is. Because if you have a problem and you have to re-vote, and you voted on yellow lined paper, and 30 people in the room have a little yellow pad and they're taking notes of the meeting, what's the chance that if you had to re-vote on something, that maybe somebody would maybe make up their own ballot? Not accusing anybody, but just saying, if it's a common piece of paper, it's too much temptation. Sorry, but it is. Yes, Robin.
Okay, question, you're doing your nominations at a meeting and the person accepts the nomination.
Right.
Do they have to be brought up again at the second meeting to be nominated? That's the first part of my question.
Well, before the president asks for any additional nominations, she needs to announce what the slate is. So everybody would know that someone has been recommended for that position by the nominating committee.
Okay, so at the first meeting, you know, I got nominated.
Yeah.
So it's not, I won't come up again at the second meeting, I will come up when when you vote, okay. When,
Okay, let me just get some clarification. Are you talking like a district president election?
no, I'm sorry, unit level.
At a unit level?
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm thinking here, where we're going with this is, you would like them to say a few words, or you would like them to answer some questions before people vote?
I guess let me do the other part of my question is,
Okay.
you know, I want to nominate Mary Jo, but she's not there at the meeting, okay? And she's not gonna be there election night, okay?
It doesn't
So-
matter whether she's there election night. What matters is she's accepted
Okay.
a nomination, and if she's not present to do that, we need a letter signed by her that she has accepted the nomination.
Okay.
That neither candidate needs to be present at the election, but they do either a nominating to accept or a letter saying they accept the position.
Okay.
And again, nominating committee people, please ask them, are you willing to serve? Because they're gonna be asked to willing to serve. And the election committee, and the nominating committee, when it gets all the way down to the end with a slate, they don't wanna have a hole. You know, they've already recommended somebody, and hopefully it's because that person said, yes, I am ready to serve that position.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Thank you.
All right, so, also in your standing rules, do you allow a motion to be made to destroy the ballots?
That's right.
We recommend that you do, and please don't announce the vote count. It could be embarrassing to somebody, we don't wanna do that. So, those of you who are monitors and tellers, please don't go out and say what the vote count was, it's just not fair.
Michael Ann, 283.
Yes.
Do you destroy the votes immediately, or do you destroy them after a week or 10 days or something?
Normally it says immediately, because otherwise there's a chance that this can float around places. But it's up to you. If it doesn't say in your standing rules that you destroy the votes and you don't want to keep it for posterity 7 years. Records are kept for 7 years.
7 years.
Yes.
Big we don't get it.
Okay, we addressed vacancies. We jumped the gun only because there was question asked. We've addressed vacancies throughout the year. And, let me go on a little bit of detail about the district election for president. If someone stands up and gives a glowing letter, for someone coming off the floor, and they say, "We wholeheartedly endorse Susie." You can't endorse Susie if Susie's coming off the floor. They can recommend Susie, but the word endorsement in our world means your unit is behind you. And that doesn't happen with a write-in. So please keep that in mind. Now, can you politic? Can you go out? If you're an endorsed candidate, absolutely. If you're not an endorsed candidate, if your friends want to say, "Hey, you know, Susie's running for office and, you know, I'm sure she'd appreciate your vote," you can't control what your friends do, but you cannot actively politic until the day that the endorsement is made by whoever is, you know, that, or nominating you, nominating you from the floor at the Constitutional Conference. Then you can politic. You can put flyers on the chairs, you can give them candy, you can speak when the time comes, whatever. But you cannot politic prior to being announced as a candidate. And I know that sounds like it might not be fair, but that's the way the department has described that situation. Okay, now, here's something interesting. It's a very, very, very good idea in your district if you have a parliamentarian there the day of your constitutional conference. If you've never appointed one, I would say grab a past department president, somebody else maybe who's been a district president before, because there's maybe things that come up that she may have to run out the room and call somebody and get the down low on, because it may interfere with the election. Here's a couple of things. The one is the paper. We have to be sure that what we're counting is ballots, not out of somebody's notebook or anything else. If you would, please have an official box with a slot in it or something, that those votes are not in a beer pitcher somewhere sitting around before they're counted, or dumped out on a table. Don't want to do that. So it needs to be an envelope with the unit on it and how many votes of your voting strength. Somebody from district is gonna hand that to the president. President's gonna hand out the votes, vote, 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 put it back in, and it's gonna go back to that person who handed out the votes. That's usually the secretary. However, what if the secretary's running for president? That secretary should not be able to do one function that is minutely even related to the election function. Give you an example. At the beginning of the meeting, you announce voting strength. The secretary says, your unit has 4 votes, and you've got 20 votes, and you've got 16 votes, or whatever. How do we know that?
Based on that.
Other than the secretary saying, that's the voting strength, but wait a minute, she's running for office. Not a good idea. That's where you might need your, either someone from the election committee or your parliamentarian, someone to step in and verify that voter strength so that you know you got the right numbers. I mean, if the voter strength is 6, and when you open the, unit, whatever, envelope, and there's 22 votes in there, wait a minute, that doesn't work. It doesn't work. You should only have as many voting ballots in the envelope as what your voting strength is. Now, those votes need to go directly to the teller to get counted. They don't need to stop along the way and it's sitting on the dais or anything, like it's sitting up here while we're doing other stuff. No, we need to make it as secure as possible. Be fair when you ask candidates to speak. If you ask a candidate to speak, but she was a committee chairman or 2 or 3, and she does all this work, and she gives 3 reports, and then the president says, oh, by the way, she's running, you know, she's coming off the floor, that's a lot of time that that person spoke, when maybe the other candidate already spoke and you said 2 minutes. Well, this girl got 2 minutes for her speech, 2 minutes for one committee, 2 minutes for another, 2 minutes for another. And if you put them all together, that really looks unfair that someone was not given equal time. So keep that in mind. We have very active members, and they have a lot of things to say at Constitutional Conference. But please, make sure it's fair, how much time you give people to speak. Okay. What else? Again, at Constitutional Conference, Madam President, I move that we destroy the ballots, because we don't have our own C and B. So that will require a vote. When you vote, please don't forget about electing your delegates that go to national. That needs to be done the same day. Alrighty? You pick a delegate and you pick an alternate. And if the person who's the, you know, or maybe 5 people want the position, those that don't get those 2 positions can run from the floor at convention. If they'd like. Here's the other thing, and this is not in writing any place, but I want to say that this might save you a whole bunch of headaches. Unit presidents, you know this form that you're given by department, it's usually on yellow paper, and it says, here's your delegates, please list for for a constitutional conference. And then you just need to start putting names down. Okay, delegates are elected. So you need to elect delegates as well. And if you get 5 delegates, you need to do 5 alternates. And you also need to do a ballot. Now, we all know that at the units, we're begging for people to go to convention, those delegates for convention, or for the Constitutional Congress, because what it ends up with is the same people who are delegates for Constitutional Conference end up being the delegates for department convention, which is perfectly fine. And like I said, sometimes you don't have enough volunteers. So it really doesn't end up in an election then, it's kind of becomes an appointment, but if they're willing to do it, and, you know, normally at that point, the president probably would say, you know, yeah, who wants to go? I mean, let's face it, it happens in all our units. Officially, they need to be voted on, so keep that in mind. If you have more people willing to run than you have positions, then you have to have a written ballot. If there's no competition, this person wants to be the delegate and this one wants to be the alternate, there's nothing, you know, there's your candidates. However, I'm thinking, if they're two, they're not running for alternate, they're both running for as a delegate, and then the one with the next lowest vote is going to be the alternate. So yes, you do have to have a vote regardless. Sorry. The sheet that I'm talking about, though, is the sheet that you hand in at Constitutional Conference, where it's got all your delegates on. Now, again, we've talked about voting strength. Voting strength is based on the population in your unit, that you get so many votes. You get 2 votes for just being a unit. You get 1 vote for every 50 over that members. So here's the thing. Before you get to Constitutional Conference, you should have that sheet all filled out. Whether the people are going to Constitutional Conference or not, if you get 7, please put 7 names down and 7 alternates, just in case. Because what's going to happen is those 7 are going to be the voting strength. So what you don't want to do is you go to district constitutional conference, the president goes by herself, but she's entitled to 7 votes, but she only filled out her name. She just gave away 6 votes. You don't wanna do that. You wanna vote your entire voting strength. But the person who's, and, so here's what I was getting at. Those of you setting up the constitutional conference, you might wanna have those forms handy. Just because, what if the president can't make it and she calls you up that morning and says, I'm in Oshkosh, but I need you to go in my place for the constitutional conference? She doesn't have the sheet. She doesn't have the names. Does that mean you shouldn't vote? No, if the sheet was made out and you know who your delegates are, then you should be able to vote that minute. So, if you have a spare, in case somebody in an emergency didn't get to bring the form, they could recreate the form there, because it's not fair that they come all the way. I mean, we had a conference where 19 people would not have been allowed to vote if we didn't allow a sheet to be available to them. And I'm gonna tell you, this is not in writing anywhere. However, I think you'll find if you went from district to district that that is the way to solve that problem, without making people walk away and feel like they can't vote, because that's not fair. Okay, yes,
I got a question.
yes,
Let's say you have 10 votes,
yes.
and you only get 7 members that volunteer to be a delegate.
Mm-hmm.
Can you ask if there's anybody off the floor who's not gonna be at DCC, but would let us use their vote?
Yeah, if you wanna, that's why, just because they're voted, it doesn't mean they have to be there. But you do need a whole slate of people to go on the list. If you get 7 votes, you want 7 votes. So, get 7 people. And it doesn't mean that they're going, they've just put their name up that they're willing to be a delegate. And frankly, the president, before the Constitutional Conference, should actually be polling her delegates to say, if you're not coming, what's your druthers? Because it's also not fair for you to assume that they want you to vote for one person over another. So I do ask you to please, in the hopes of having a fair election, if somebody doesn't show, but they told you, I want to vote for Susie, or you don't want to vote, please do what that person has asked you to do, because they're a delegate. They have a right to their vote as well. Because what's gonna happen is you're gonna fill out the 7 ballots
Right.
at the conference.
Yeah, because you want to use all of the votes.
You do want to use all of them.
That you have assigned to your unit.
Mhm. I know of one unit that had 17 votes, and 3 years in a row, 3 people's names were on the list, that was it. Not good. Because restraint just went out the window.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Did I answer the questions or
Can you
about the
explain
district meeting?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
That's what I-
All right.
And, can you explain a little bit more on a unit executive committee, what power they have and what power they don't have?
Yes, anyone who's looked at the installation ceremony, the charges for the executive committee are members who are the management of the unit in between meetings. They make decisions for the unit in between meetings. If there's an emergency, if money has to be spent, if a donation has to be made. The way it normally works is everybody is told via email, unless they show up at the post and they're gonna have a meeting. And the president poses the question, and then she requires everybody to email her back. And then she will either spend the money or do whatever needs to be done. At the next meeting, basically what happens is a ratification. It's going to be brought up to the general membership, and basically they're gonna say, we had to do this. And the vote with the E-board, the EC was unanimous, or it wasn't, or it was 5-1, or whatever it was. Then we're gonna announce that at the next meeting. Now, usually they ask for a motion to accept, and it's just a rubber stamp. Now, there might be some objection to that. However, in their charges, these people manage the unit in between meetings. That's what it says their charges are. So, they have every right to make a decision for the unit. That's why you voted them in. To make a decision for the unit in their stead, because we couldn't get to a meeting before we had to take this action.
But it's only on that action, they cannot just go.
No
ahead and-
other discussion of any other business other than that one issue.
That one issue. They cannot go ahead and put something to the executive committee and make it like a little club right
No,
now, in between. No, you gotta have just one issue, and that is the only issue that can be discussed.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I understood that to be if you had an emergency meeting specifically for an item, but can you have an executive committee meeting, not an emergency?
What does it say in your standing rules when you allow the Zoom meetings to happen?
There are no, for the Zoom and the standard.
Okay, if your standing rules do not allow you to have a meeting any other way than in here, at a meeting, it's not a meeting.
But if we do it by email, and the people come, we have a quorum of the committee.
Well, they don't even have to come if it's holding them in between a meeting, because that's their job. Their
Right.
job is to manage between meetings.
But my understanding was that the emergency committee, if there was an emergency meeting, you could
Right.
only specify one item.
One item, that's correct.
But if you have a committee meeting, not an emergency meeting with,
Another one on Zoom,
no, not with Zoom,
Or
you just have.
an email meeting, so to speak?
No, have an executive meeting at the post
Yeah,
to discuss several items, if there's enough forward
again, the only thing I can go by there is what your standing rules say. If you say your executive committee meets the second Tuesday of the month at 7:30 as needed. In my unit, I don't have an EC meeting every month.
We don't either.
We may not, depends on what we've got to talk about. Now, if it's under that as being a regular EC meeting, you can talk whatever you want.
Okay.
You can talk about 10 issues, doesn't matter.
But you still cannot make decisions, you have to bring it in front of the general assembly. They're
Under-
the body of.
Under regular business, non-emergency, the executive committee makes recommendations to the general membership, and the general membership makes the decisions for the unit.
Okay.
Now, are those officers and those committee people members? Absolutely, and they get a vote. There's one person who doesn't get a vote. The president. President officiates over the meeting. She doesn't get a vote. She can break a tie, but doesn't mean she's gonna. Doesn't mean she's going to. So keep that in mind. Yes, ma'am.
How does that work? I mean, she does not get a vote, but she can break the tie. That's a vote, isn't
Okay,
it?
if you're having a meeting and it's by hand vote, she's gonna raise her hand. Like if she sees that it's tie, and the secretary announces we have a tie vote, then she'll say, Madam President, and the president says, I'm a yay, or I'm a nay, and she breaks the tie.
So that is a vote, though.
She doesn't have to. If you have a tie, motion dies. Doesn't go any further. Whoever made that motion, I suggest you go home and think about maybe something to sweeten the pot, or if you're really gung ho on getting something done, maybe you need to reword it or do something else. Okay? Now, let's say I'm speaking at the podium and I'm very passionate about the issue that's before us. Now, I have a voice, but in a different way. I have a voice to run a meeting, but I don't have a voice just like all of you sitting out there that say, okay, you get the dinner next week, we want to serve and pie. I don't have that option, so I'm gonna take my gavel and I'm gonna hand it to my first vice president who's sitting right here. And I'm gonna say, I'm passing the gavel. Beth, would you take over my responsibilities? And she'll say, yes, happy to, Madam President. And I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna say, I don't like chocolate cream pie, I think it ought to be vanilla or whatever, or lemon or whoever, and that's it. I just think we have to have this. Until Madam President entertains a motion, and there is a second, and there is discussion, I don't move from here. I am, as I said before, a jam, just a member. I'm standing here, I said my piece, and when it's done, I'm gonna go back up here, she's gonna hand me the gravel back, thank you, ma'am, and we're gonna move on. It's the only time I get a vote, other than the top. So, basically, you're president, and a lot of times, people comment like, oh, well, the president runs everything and she makes all the decisions.
Nope.
Nope, doesn't work that way. And if you're not having the motion, the second, the discussion, and the vote, you don't really have a legal decision made by your unit. You need to have that process. That is Robert's rules upside and backwards. Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The thing is, I've noticed in some units, not all units are doing great, that the minutes, because that has been built into me from day one as district president, from Shirley Frazier. That if it is not in your minutes, you can have a motion, a second, a vote. But if the secretary does not put that motion in your minutes, how can you prove you voted on it? And if it's not, your minutes are your Bible, because if it's not in your minutes, same as like you were talking about an endorsement letter. And even though it was voted on, but if that is not in your minutes, how can you prove that that was voted on?
The secretary, to
That's
take
what I'm
minutes, needs to have a pretty good memory, and needs to be pretty thorough and have a pretty good handwriting. I have no problem with somebody opening a laptop, the secretary, and taking their notes right there. It's actually the most efficient way to do it. Just go back and spell check it, and you're good to go, and you're done. Yes, ma'am.
Can you record the meeting?
It says so in your standing room.
Okay.
So that's what I heard, if it's not in your minutes.
You have to have a record.
Counts. You have to have a record.
Mary, hold that thought. I just want to give an example.
Okay.
I'm on the UDNR committee, and I work very closely with Shirley Frazier. She's my boss. So we're a unit, we're looking at minutes, we see this, regularly, and we compare notes to say, hey, you know what, somebody said this at a meeting, and that's, and then we go checking with Constitution bylaws or wherever we need to go to make sure everybody's doing things correctly. Well, what if the minutes say, a discussion about the bake sale ensued? What's a discussion? We talked about naming Susie's dog Coco. I mean, it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. The motion, the second, discussion, and the vote. Now, let's talk about the vote. We have a contentious issue on the floor, perhaps. And over here, President asked for the vote, signified by saying yay or nay, and this group goes yay, yay, and then this group, who really, really wants to sell this idea, is a little bigger, or it could be even smaller than that group, but they heard a milk toast, yay. So they over here go, yay, and the president doesn't count, she just hears yay, and there's 5 people here, but there's 20 people over here, they just weren't as loud. So, presidents, please do a hand vote that can be counted, and this is where your sergeant at arms and your assistant sergeant at arms, because they need to be counting hands. And we're gonna hold our hands up by the vote, so we get it accurate, and we know it's not a yelling contest on who yells loudest. It happens. Heard it at convention. I don't know if it was this last time or the one before. But the one before, and we had to go to a hand vote, and they started counting hands, because if we went with what the sound was, it was not the majority at all. Not at all. Okay, back to your district meeting at the end. Yeah, oh, Mary, yes.
I just want to reiterate on subject of,
Minutes?
Recorded meeting.
recorded, thank you, I just
do a complete
I got your back.
If it's not in the standard rules, but you have a meeting that's gonna be things are gonna be discussed that are extremely important, and you're afraid they might be missed. As the president, can she ask the General Assembly if they would mind having the minutes recorded for this meeting?
You can do that as long as it's in the form of a motion. And an explanation first, we have guests here, and it's really important that we get everything down verbatim of what's been said. I'll entertain a motion for this meeting and this meeting only to be recorded.
Not that she can't do it.
But the president can't make
She
it.
can entertain a
She's
motion.
requested.
Okay, let me also go with that. You could be having a contentious conversation, and everybody's got an opinion, and people have talked 2 and 3 and 4 times, and you said a different word than what I was going for. Yes.
Entertain?
Yes, okay. We get this big discussion going on, and all of a sudden it's quiet. And the president's standing there. She could go back, move on to another subject, because nobody's made a motion yet. So, the term as president, I will entertain a motion on the floor means, ladies, whoever wants to make this motion, come on up and speak about it, because I certainly can't do it. But it means, let's go, ladies. Who will please make a motion on this issue? Entertain. I'm asking you. Somebody please make a motion. And then we'll go forward. We'll go with a second, and we'll have discussion, and we'll vote. But when I use the word entertain, because this came up and somebody thought I voted, I did a motion. And I was like, no, I said entertain. And that's out of Robert's rules too, that you're asking the group to bring forth a motion. Anybody can do it, but bring forth the motion that is being discussed. Because otherwise, then in your minutes, you're gonna have, we discussed the barbecue. Okay? We discussed it, it's snowing outside. It means nothing. You have to have a vote, and it needs to be on the record. All right, is there anything in particular you would like to speak about? And I'm saying this because, every district's different, and I tried to give a broad spectrum of things. However, I don't want you to leave here where you weren't able to ask a question. And as you see,
Does the treasurer and the president write checks to? We made a motion to donate $750 to our new police substation, which is right by our Legion. But every way that we can donate to that particular substation, I'm getting turned down.
so you voted once and it got turned down, and every time
No, we
thereafter?
we approved the money, but I can't find an acceptable way to get the money from our checkbook into Zone 2's pockets.
Was Zone 2,
Yeah,
was
that's,
Zone 2 mentioned in the motion?
absolutely.
Okay. And was there a particular event that they were doing that you needed to get the money to them?
Yes, they had just moved in, and there were things that they still don't have that the police department doesn't provide for them.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, this is a firehouse?
Police department.
It's a police station.
So how do I just get the check?
So do you have,
To buy them their
do you have
stuff.
county law enforcement, or do you have city?
City. JSO.
Okay, so this was a district within a city?
Yes.
Okay, so a check was written?
No,
From our
I'm trying to
from the
figure
unit?
out how to write a check. How to get them to write a
Okay, well,
check.
first of all, when you motion for money, it's not, you really need to do it before the next meeting.
Linda's gonna explain it.
Unless there's some reason that it's a special event that you want to present a check or something, that's a different story. But it should be done as quickly as possible, yes.
Linda Noggle.
Yes.
283. I think what she's trying to get across is this.
All right, ladies.
That
one
a check could be
conversation at a
written to
time.
JSO, but when the check goes to JSO, it has nowhere to go. It goes into a big pot and cannot get to that zone.
That's an
So-
internal issue that you're not gonna be able to solve by the auxiliary.
Well, because we voted on the money to go to the zone
Yeah.
number, is there, we can't get a gift card?
They won't let me go buy gift cards for them. I've asked if I could, me and the sergeant and the secretary of that office go to Walmart together. And then I just write a check at Walmart for the supplies they need, and that got turned down.
That got
So
turned
we
down
voted on the money,
by the
but
sheriff's office?
No, by our treasurer and president.
They can do that.
Yeah, they said they won't, they said that they can't write a blank check, which I get that. But they could write it out to Walmart.
Ladies, we've got too many side conversations.
You have a, thank you, Mary. There's a lot of stuff going on there that some of it is out of the control of the auxiliary. And I understand that you want it to go to the right place, so you wanna make sure that it's written appropriately. I think this is going to require, what I would do is a letter from whoever's heading that station and ask them, how do we get you the money?
Well,
Whether you go get gift cards or you do something. I'm not crazy about the gift cards because some individual could walk off and go buy a TV with it. So I'm not so hep on that one. But, I think it requires something in writing so that you hand it to the treasurer. Now, the treasurer, if you have it in the minutes and you have who it needs to be remitted to, that's her job, to write a check. But in this case, it sounds like perhaps she's doing her due diligence, that she doesn't have enough information and wants to get it to the right place and make sure it's used properly. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. To help them out and to simplify it, anytime any auxiliary unit, anybody donates something to, JSO,
Yeah.
that check has to be written to JSO specifically for that department. So most of you know that I live in the disaster world. Anytime a disaster happens, anybody can donate money to the American Red Cross. You open your phone, you open your checkbook, you donate it. But if you say, I want that money to go to the American Red Cross Operation Sock, let's just call it a sock. That money that you donate can only be used at Operation Sock. So in the JSO world, you have a general fund, and then you have specific money that comes in the door, and that happens all the time, especially from auxiliaries and different things. And
I've talked to the treasurer
So-
of JSO.
what you do, like she said, get a letter, your treasurer's doing her job, find A, B, C. D is the end.
Yeah.
But A and B sounds good. C is where you're running into the glitch, and that's fine. Anytime money comes in, it has to be told where is it going and who is it going to. You've already got a home where it's going. It's already been yesed and approved. Now we just gotta get it there.
Specific.
So would that go in the memo?
That would go in the memo. And that's it, because everybody walks up to a fire station, everybody, 9/11, we couldn't stop people from feeding first responders. But you just gotta let it go where it goes, so.
Yeah, this is good. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Okay, I
Anytime.
think that's great information, and I think we'll cut it off at there because we've got to finish something up.
Yes, ma'am.
And, I don't want to keep you forever.
No.
So, yeah, I think you're right about that. You got a couple of steps there that are right, and then you got to move forward, and I don't think it's anything that can get solved here right now without their input. Yes, yes.
When there is an item that the unit is discussing, and they're meeting, and they can't come to an agreement that night,
Yes,
and a motion is made that it is tabled,
right.
how long does that item stay on the table?
If somebody brings it up at the next meeting, it's no longer tabled.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I think sometimes-
But if you consistently do that, 2 or 3 months in a row, it's time for somebody, what they call about the pot. Because you gotta get something done there, or else it just needs to die once and for all.
Because I think some people think when they table, it'll be tabled on and on and on.
No. Matter of fact, as a good steward of the auxiliary, if you hear this once or twice, it's time for you to make a motion. Either bring it and bear all, or say, or just make a motion about it, and if everybody likes it, it'll fly. If it doesn't, it won't.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, I need your able-bodied hands for a few moments. Okay. All right. This is not 20th century, but we're getting it. Okay. All right, if you would just swing this way towards me, and we'll flip this around so it faces them. This is auxiliary Jeopardy. Okay, everybody see it? Okay? All right. A little more? This one back? Okay. Okay, so let's put this back. It's a little. Is that better?
I can.
Is that okay? Okay. We have auxiliary Jeopardy here. And as you know with Jeopardy, you have to ask an informative question. And we have 6 categories here that I know are near and dear to your heart. And here's what I'm going to do. I need a hand from someone else as well. Okay, Berna. Whoever gets the question right, the answer right, you're going to give them a little glass bead. Uno. Yes, one glass bead. Okay. You have to raise your hand, so don't yell out the question. And I will try my best to get the very first person that asked the question. However, I'm sorry, past district presidents and past unit presidents or current unit presidents or district presidents, you are not allowed to play this game.
Oh, that's not fair. I was looking forward to it.
Because you're going to go home with all the marbles, and we want other people.
You can tell me the answers though.
Okay.
I'll answer first.
So, here's how it works.
And I'll give you the marks.
The front pulls out the sign, and we have categories, so let me run through it. Okay, the first category is.
Blocking it.
Oh, you go out the wall, huh? Yeah.
Robin,
Okay, this is called
you're
post.
blocking it.
Sorry.
Okay.
This is called post-career. Meaning it's about the post. Number 2.
Huh.
Vote early and vote often. This was Mayor Daley in Chicago when he was asked about any election he was ever in. All he used to say is vote early and vote often. You can't do that, but it was just supposed to be fun. Okay, next. Proactive on protocol. Okay, gonna tell you how you do things. And hail to the chief. Must be about the president. Next. There's always a me in membership. Okay. And the last category is reporting to you from the Department of Florida. This is, must be a name of somebody. Okay, so we're gonna, and the others work the exact same way. That the thing on the front comes out. Oh, whichever one. Yeah, and there's a couple I had to take because the things broke off. But- Okay, so who's gonna be first?
Yeah, why not? I'll be first.
There we go. Okay. What category would you like and for how much? How many chips?
Am I playing as a table or just myself?
Just you. Individually here.
Y'all should have explained
Individually.
that.
And the person with the most marbles is gonna win major award.
And the chief for 5 chips.
For 5 chips.
5. Only.
Hail to the chief. Bottom one. I will read them if you can't see them or I'll stand up.
We can't see that here.
All right, you wanna come around the side here? Here's the cat, go ahead. Okay. President is required to give this at constitutional conference. Yes,
A list of the delegates?
first of all, it's
Sorry.
What is?
Oh, what is the list?
That was her question.
It's her question.
Doesn't matter, whoever
Right
answers.
here.
Oh, yeah, but it's whoever answers first.
What is the list of delegates?
Okay, and this actually has two answers that I would have accepted. That is one of them. The other one is an annual report.
Why do you like 2.5 chips?
One chip.
You get one.
Okay. Now you got it right, so you get to ask, yes.
Well, ladies.
Okay.
Ladies, please keep it down, and if you're making a motion, stand, if you're raising your
Yeah.
hand, stand
Yeah,
up.
raise,
So
if you're gonna give
we,
an answer.
so we know who's asking the question.
Okay,
I did what to do?
you get to pick, because you got the right answer.
Oh,
You get to pick again.
vote early and vote often for 5 chips.
Oh, we got the heavy guns here. Wow.
I'm gonna get her all the 5 chips first, because that's gotta be hard to be bent down like that.
No, it's okay. I'm good.
Keep standing.
Keep standing.
Keep standing until you answer the question.
I thought I had to raise
What
my
is the, here it is, I can't give you the question.
Can't get
A member who oversees the vote count. Yes, ma'am.
The teller and the teller, what is a teller?
Yes.
Thank God, I got the what
You
is.
got to say the what is, yeah.
Sorry,
You got one chip over here, okay. Now.
I keep forgetting
you,
the what is.
You get to pick the next category in question.
Oh, reporting from the Department of Florida.
Uh-huh. How many?
Okay, so I gotta go for the 5.
Stand up.
Get the bottom done.
Way to go, knock 'em out.
That's, that way we get out the.
Submit a great report or entry. This is a tough one, but just use your imagination.
Come on, I got a good answer for this one.
Okay, give us a shot. Go
What
ahead.
is half the president's job at the convention? Aw,
By submitting a great report to your district chair for consideration, you will be eligible for a district committee award.
I'll take a chip.
All right. Yes, you can choose again because you're the last one who got the right answer.
Oh, so I
Yes.
choose again?
Choose again.
Okay. There's always a MIA membership.
Okey dokey. Are we going for the bottom one?
Yeah, let's get them out of the way.
Yes. Raise your hand to speak. State your motion clearly and concisely. Yes?
What is the rule of Roberts, law and order that we have in the meetings? That was bad.
Am I stretching that?
Sounds good to me.
Oh. Linda, yes, go ahead.
What is protocol?
Well, that's general, but yes.
What is a motion?
Ooh, you're getting close. Yes, because here's what the answer is. What can you do to have a good chance that your motion will carry?
What is a motion?
Raise your hand. Speak clearly.
Oh,
State your motion clearly and concisely. That's the way to make a motion. And then it's, then it's I move. I move to paint the ceiling black. I move. I motion is not correct Queen's English, because you're saying I'm doing something else with, a noun, yeah, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work, so, okay. Do we get a chip?
Yes, you did.
Okay, you may give us the next question.
Let's go for,
Speak up, you guys.
yes, ma'am. Number 4 for green. I can't see the letters.
How many chips? One chip?
4 for green.
4 chips for green.
Yeah, 4 chips for green.
Protocol.
Okay, this is proactive on protocol.
Oh, Lord.
See, you guys are all real smart, so I didn't cover a lot of this, but we're just testing it. Okay, to the right of the presiding officer. I think your hand was up first.
Secretary.
To the right?
To the right?
No, right, the presiding officer.
To the right?
Where does the guest of honor sit at the podium? Is the correct answer. We didn't talk about that, but we did kind of show it. Yeah. Okay. I think you were next, last again. Go ahead.
No, I thought it was Chaplain. I thought it was Chaplain.
Let's go the auxiliary one for 4.
Chaplain is farther. We only got so much room, that's why. What, Kathy?
Blue. The president or
Post parade.
Blue, parade.
oh, the first one? Okay. 4.
Yes, please. I don't have my glasses.
Oh, here you go.
What is it?
Precision group that presents the flag and banners at ceremonies. Yes, ma'am.
What is the color guard?
Yes, ma'am.
Yay!
Color guard. Color guard here with the flags. Honor guard. That's the guns.
Let's do the blue one.
And you're not sergeant of arms, you're sergeant at arms.
Okay,
Right,
number
Mary?
3 for post
Yes.
parade. 2 programs of the American Legion. Yes, ma'am.
Girls' Day, and,
Challenged members of our community. And our unit and our post is very big in doing this, and we have storage, we do all kinds of stuff. And Jim and his team have been successful in getting a number of veterans out of the woods. It's not easy, some don't want to, some have other reasons why they're there, there's millions of reasons why someone's homeless. But eventually, you get lucky, and the veteran gives the call and says, I'm ready. And that's like the best thing. Okay. So, next.
Oh, I can pick no. Well, 'cause I know I can't see.
What color?
Go, the blue one, I guess, do 5s.
5, down bottom.
We're almost done with the bottom.
Okay, well, I gave you this answer already. Precision group that performs rifle volleys at memorial services. Yes, ma'am.
What is the honor guard?
You got it. Pick a category.
Oh, let's just finish out blue. What we got next?
2?
Blue, 3.
2, 1 or 2?
Oh, 2 I got.
Okay. Cooperation, not regulation. Yes, ma'am. Well, it makes for a good team. However, many years ago, the National Judge Advocate said, and he makes it very clear, that the relationship between the auxiliary and the Legion is one of cooperation, not regulation. We are our own entity. We are incorporated in the state of Florida. We do our thing. We are guests in this hall, and we need to respect that, and we need to help where we need to help. But we are separate, and we respect each other, and we cooperate, especially when asked.
What's the answer? So what's the answer?
So the answer is, that would be good,
So it
wouldn't
would
it?
be, what was the relationship between
Yeah,
the auxiliary?
what is the relationship between the Legion and the auxiliary?
Corporation.
Yeah. Okay, you wanna finish?
Pick another.
Do number
blue.
1.
Do number 1. There you go. I think we'll only do about 5 or 10 more, because I know we're getting, I was trying to aim for 1:30, so.
Yep.
Okay. Signs membership forms for the unit.
What is the number?
Remember the category.
But is the membership
So,
there?
no.
No?
Keep in mind a category,
Wait a minute, they signed?
talking about the American Legion. Yes, go ahead.
Well, for ours, what is American Legion adjunct?
That's
Correct.
correct.
I was gonna say,
That's who
that's
signs.
well,
Before those have to go up there, that's who signs.
Okay, so it is the
Okay,
adjective.
you may, it's Linda, right? Okay, you may pick.
Vote early and vote often, 4.
Okay.
Vote early and vote often.
Member who counts the votes. Yes.
What is the
No.
monitor?
What is it?
Somebody else? Man right here? Oh, this lady right here? No. Yes. No.
What is Robin?
Yes, ma'am.
What is the tally, like the tally, it wasn't the executive committee, but it was the tally person. Committee.
The teller.
Teller, that's what, teller. Well,
Here we go. Okay, ma'am, you may pick another question.
Let's see, vote early and
that's what I was saying.
Number 3.
Teller, I didn't know what goes after teller. So what comes after teller?
More than 2 candidates in a race, you call this vote for the one with the most votes. We just talked about this. Yes, ma'am.
Majority.
No.
What's plurality?
Yes, yes. Plurality. Plurality is the one with the most votes.
Plurality.
Okay, next. You need to pick. You want to pick one?
The pink one, number 1.
Vote early and vote often?
Yeah.
Okay. Greater than half the number of votes cast. You talked about this too. Yes,
What
ma'am.
is majority?
Yes, ma'am. That's the winner.
Let's go vote early, vote often for 2.
Number of votes allocated to each unit calculated at close of books. Yes, ma'am.
What is their voting weight? Voting strength, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm that happy already.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, we can get it in. Yeah. Held to the chief, 4 chips.
4 chips.
Couldn't see over Roberta.
Are you wearing high heels?
The president follows this to ensure an organized and productive meeting.
Rules,
Yes,
What are Robert's rules of order?
I can go with that. We'll go with that. We'll go with that. That could be it, and the other one that could be is
Minutes.
an agenda. Not an agenda, it's a meeting going smoothly.
it's a good one.
Okay, who got that right? Okay, pick another one, and we'll do 2 more after this, and then we'll call it a day.
Do number 4 in the orange column.
Okay, there is always a me. This is orange.
No.
Yeah, I don't know what happened here.
Whatever.
Oh, sorry. This is yellow. Raise your hand, wait to be recognized by presiding officer. Yes, ma'am. No? Yes, ma'am.
For a second, I thought I was just following directions. What is speaking at a meeting?
Yes, it's what you do so the president realizes you want to speak.
Raise your hand and stand up.
I don't know if it's orange or pink. The farthest column, 3 chips. On my side, it's pink.
Yeah, we got it.
Okay.
This is a gimme. No more mid-year reporting.
Wait, I got it. What is yay?
What was the recent change?
I'm gonna go yay because that's right, because it's the best change that was made this year.
Yes.
So we all want to short in town. Okay, we'll go one more and then we'll add up the checks. If you would get the last category.
Let's go that same column, 2 checks.
Two checks. Over here? Or that one?
Same one.
Same one.
Same one, 2 checks. I think we all did.
Provides a history to National and Congress maximizing funds for veterans.
I'm sorry, repeat the question.
Say that again?
Provides a history to National and Congress maximizing funds for veterans. Yes,
The
ma'am.
national commander.
She can't answer. Yes, ma'am. No.
You can't answer.
Yes.
What is a national commander?
No, the answer is why.
One more in the hat.
Oh, yes, go ahead. Yes. This is very, very important, and why we have yearly reports, because they go to Congress eventually to see what we've done. Okay, let's add them up. Berna, you might know. Who's got the most ones?
I'll get it.
2.
Yeah, but they were in a better spot back there. She saw what happened.
Okay, all right, ladies, hold on. We try to make this as fair as possible, but we want to have some fun with it, and also, let's face it, some of us are new, some of us are seasoned, and, there's just a lot to learn, but that's why I didn't cover a lot of these, because I just wanted to see how smart you are. However, I need your name and, last name, because the winner of this game, in honor of your winning, I write a $25 check to the department, whatever committee or whatever you want it to go to.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else, ladies? Anything you want to discuss? Questions?
Well, I believe 2 of them were
Answered.
is.
Anything?
Good.
All right, at this point, Carolyn, if you would be so kind to close and wrap us up here.
It was interesting.